so much for the warm welcome. Thank you all for coming here. For those of you who I have yet to get to know, I hope through my books and I hope through today, we become friends. That's kind of how I feel about story. I feel like it connects us in the most authentic and wonderful way. I can't believe this is my sixth book. I mean, for those of you who have been on this journey, it took me 15 years to get published. There's a lot of rejection, a lot of no, a lot of support, a lot of Twizzlers that happen to keep going. And I'm just coming here today with a really grateful and full heart. I'm really honored that you are joining me. Same Page is about Beth Stein, who unites friends with a group of rock star librarians known as the Book Warriors to fight a book ban happening at her middle school. I'm really proud of this story. According to PEN America, there were in last school year over 10,000 book challenges and complaints, which is almost 3 times more than the year prior. Book bans are happening to kids. And I wanted to share that Beth Stein tells their story, what it's like to be a kid when your right to choose what to read in your school, and your right to have your history represented, and your right to have your experiences honored is taken away. The book doesn't happen on its own. We write it. There are author friends here, but it really takes a village. So for the people that top my list, it's always my family, my husband. Thank you. You are my everything and always, and I love you. My kids who are not here, and my grandson, and my rest of my family, they are my whole heart. To my dad and Sandy who are here, and my mother-in-law Linda, the parent pack, and I have no greater PR group. I mean, friends, seriously, like there is not a bookstore they have been in that they have not like heavily marketed my books. My sister-in-law Joan and Larry, I love you guys so much, and I'm so honored that you're here. To all of my friends, my girlfriends, you know who you are. I love you all. I'm so grateful. My friend Lori is here, and her husband, Rich. They came in. Lori's mom is a Holocaust survivor who did the honor of talking to me about her life and experiences. And through that, I was able to create Bess's great-grandmother, who's a Holocaust survivor, in the story. So I'm eternally grateful for her courage and her strength. And Maya, who is a friend who I met through Liz, a student. She came up from New York to see this and me, and I've got an arm full of like the coolest bracelets ever to show for it. But I thank you for your friendship and your kindness. I would really like to take, before we dive in, Liz and I are going to chat. If you are a teacher or librarian, could you just stand for me? I would like to give you all this story honors Book Warriors. And all of you, the teachers and librarians, are the Book Warriors who have had the courage and the strength and the voice to champion kids and books and the right to read for all of us and all of this next generation. I am a new grandmother, so this next generation, it's like the greatest thing ever, now has a name and is really interwoven into my heart in the most deepest way. And so to my little reader Asa, this book is for him. And so as Book Warriors go, Liz is an incredible advocate for kids, a champion for books, a wonderful friend who said yes when I said, would you come up and celebrate the launch of Same Page with me? I'm grateful for all you do and for our friendship. So thank you. All right. Now we're off and running. I will say we're going to chat. If you have questions, let us know. There are going to be giveaways. I'm going to do a book giveaway. I'm going to pull things from, that'll be the game. You're going to have to work for that one. But there'll be other giveaways, t-shirts and stickers. So we'll pull names out of a hat for that. So that'll come later. All right.
So I want to thank you. I think this book is beyond timely, extremely important, and everything about it embodies you. And to have this opportunity as a Jewish woman, as a librarian, as somebody who cares deeply for kids' rights to read. See, I'm gonna cry already. This book tells so many stories that wouldn't have existed otherwise. So thank you, and please, everybody, make sure everybody you know has copies. We need to push this book out into the world. So it's an honor to be celebrating it with you.
Thank you, Liz.
Did you want to read?
No, I'm going to do that. That's part of the giveaway. So that's to stay tuned.
Okay. So in the book, you include a quote by Martin Luther King Jr., which we'll be celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Day in about a week. So perfect timing for this book to come out. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. This book is about listening and learning to truly listen, but not just about book bans. About friendship, about family, about our own inner workings. Can you speak to some of the reasons why you included all of those different elements?
So, there's so much about Bess and this story, and I won't get through this without tears, but that is so important to me. The idea of, I'll start with the listening piece. I think so often people, kids, but also adults, we listen, we're not hearing, we're just waiting for our turn to talk. We're not really listening with empathy and understanding. We're listening, we're waiting our turn to say our piece. And in this story, that element is really highlighted because Bess and June, Bess gets mad at June when June doesn't stand up and speak out about an injustice that is very dear to Bess. She doesn't understand why her friend isn't using her voice in the way that Bess is. June is upset with Bess because June's mom is different than Bess's mom. I'm not going to go into details, no spoilers. But Bess is hearing what June says out of her own experiences. She doesn't understand that June's mom, when she says she's not like your mom, she doesn't get that. She doesn't really understand what that actually means. She just thinks, okay, your mom is annoying, or I don't really, I'm in trouble and I shouldn't be. She doesn't get it. And June doesn't understand why the fact that June's mom doesn't really believe the Holocaust should be something that is talked about. Doesn't think a lot of the books about people's experience should be shared. June doesn't understand why that hurts Bess. June says something to her to the effect of, well, these books aren't about kids like us, so why do you care? But that's the whole point. What happens to one happens to all of us. And so it matters. It doesn't matter if it's about you today. It's about humanity. It's about kindness. It's about all of us. And if it matters that one person, whether your feelings are hurt about somebody said something not nice to you, or something bigger about somebody saying your life experience is so embarrassing we can't talk about it, then it doesn't matter on what level. Listen, if we listen to each other, if we listen to our friends, if we can take the time to have those conversations, then, and be kind and give each other grace and give ourselves grace. So you talked about listening to yourself. Avi in the book is a little brother, and he has what he calls the fishes, which is anxiety for him. When you have a pit in your stomach or something feels squishy and swimmy, that's what he calls it. And, you know, we have to listen to those things too that are happening to us inside. And we have to take the time to know that we're not weird. There's nothing wrong with us. You know, there's not a single person that hasn't had fishes at some point, right? We all have that like squiggly thing that happens in our stomach. I can say I walk into a room sometimes, I walk into a school, or maybe like just now, and like I had that. So if we listen to ourselves and are kind, give ourselves kindness, and listen to others, I feel like we're embracing sort of all of our humanity, because we're all working on something.
And just because it seems small to someone else, it matters to them, and you
Right.
show that it's okay for them to care.
Thank you.
What was seems like they're
Oh.
what? I mean, obviously the news and what's happening across the country, right? You know so many librarians that are being affected by this. But what was your inspiration? Because you obviously had to start this book a long time ago before it really got bad. What made you write this now?
I wanted to write this story. I wanted to write this story because of kids, of this next generation. Because if we start taking away people's ability to decide what they want to read and what stories they can share, I mean, where is the line? I mean, what else? And this is a story that impacts kids. Like, I travel around the country. I have this greatest pleasure that I get to like hang out with kids, like the kids here today. Like, I get to hang out with you, and I love it. And I've talked to you, and I know the things that matter. And I want you to be able to read about them. I want you to be able to share stories about them. I want, whether it's people's history or people's life choices or the experiences they're having now. I never want someone to say what matters to you and your life is so divisive that we can't talk about it, is so abhorrent that we can't bring it up in our school. I mean, what message does that send? That silence is louder than anything. That silence tells kids that their story and their life and the things that matter to them don't matter. And that is not okay with me. And that's why I wrote the story.
So in preparing for today, we talked about some of like the things that connected to your own life. And I think one thing I love, obviously the Judaism aspect is really important here. But also the different ways of coping with anxiety and stress and how it's different for every person. Can you talk a little bit about how you brought in the mental health aspect into the story?
So
For different characters.
Yeah, I mean, I think for anybody who's read any of my stuff, there's always characters in there that have mental health challenges. Whether they have the fishes or they're dealing with something else, because kids have that. And the more we talk about it, the more it's not a big deal. Like, we normalize it, and when we all have something we're working on, whether we hurt our leg or we hurt our heart or we have something spinning in our head, I mean, all we need are the tools to get to the other side. And so it's really important to me that is in my stories. But there's no one way to cope with anything. And I'm not a doctor, but the things that are in this story resonate with me. I mean, there's equine therapy. So Bess's mom is an equine therapist. So there are courses in the book. She loves to ride, and her brother, there is a wonderful place, actually I think it's in Wellesley, called Love Lane, which I went to, and I spoke with the owner, and I learned a lot about equine therapy. We were actually riding horses in Colorado when I was creating this book, and the rancher that was leading our horseback ride was an equine therapist. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to learn to gallop so that I can be closer to you so we can have a conversation about this, which didn't work well, so I spoke to her when we were on the ground, because I'm not that good a horseback rider. But it was really important. I thought it was amazing. I mean, the things that, for Avi, the relationship with horses and animals and the community around that is incredible. For Bess, she practices kindness meditation. And in that, she can center herself. And it kind of brings, it's what I loved about kindness meditation and learning about it was not only are you saying things to center yourself, like wishing yourself, like, may I be happy, may I be safe, may I be loved, but she's sharing those kindnesses to the people she's mad at. Now imagine that. Like, you have a friend that you are really not happy with, and you say not only a kindness meditation to yourself because they hurt your heart, but you then send a kindness meditation out to the person who hurt you. And I feel like I love that about Bess. She's got a giant heart, and it's okay that she's, you know, things have hurt her, but she is reaching out across to the people that she's mad at. And so those were some of the ways that it wove into the story. And when you talk about bringing my life in, so for those of you who don't know, a little behind the scenes. So this guy on the cover is my dog. So in the book, I named him Barnaby because, you know, to protect his privacy. You know, he's famous and everything now. Can barely go anywhere. But this guy is actually my dog, Baxter Bean. So for those of you who know me or who are on the Cape, when you can meet Baxter Bean. So there are lots of elements, and like Liz, I'm Jewish, and like Bess Stein, I'm Jewish, and that was another connection to her character that was important to me.
Without going too much into, because it is painful to talk about anti-Semitism and the experiences of people who have lived through the Holocaust. It is an important part of the book, and it is challenging in this current political climate, right, in the world, to be talking about that. But I think you do it beautifully in that it grounds Bess, right? And it is so important to who she is as a person, but it's also important for her friends to recognize how some of the things they say hurt her. When you create those scenes in between friendships and teaching kids, which the book does, about how to be a better friend, how do you think young people can use that in their own lives? Because it's challenging, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, for me, you know, you draw from life experiences, you draw from moments in time. I mean, in this book, you know, there's macro, like on a big level of the book challenges dealing with books that are, and people don't want to talk about books that have dealt with the Holocaust and other issues. And the micro level, and that really is the friendship piece. The friendship piece is when friends say something, like raise your hand if a friend has ever said something to you as a joke, I'm just joking, and it hurt your feelings, I can say. Okay, so this is what I talk about in the book, because some people say, well, I'm just kidding. You're being so sensitive. Like, it's funny. Why aren't you thinking, like, when did you lose your sense of humor? Like, it's not funny. Being not nice is not funny. It wasn't funny when I was a kid. Not funny as a grown-up. Not funny to the kids that I've met. And not funny to the grown-ups who have also experienced it. And so I think that's a big takeaway, I hope, is that, one, kids don't have to be quiet when somebody says, oh, I'm just joking. Like, you can speak up and say, well, it's not funny. It's not funny, and it hurts me. And also the idea that when somebody is, I mean, one of the things I love about Bess is that she's like, take charge. Mm-hmm. Like, there's something going on, and she has got like a great sense of like justice and like really like an empowerment, an agency. She is going to do something, and she doesn't always succeed, friends. She fails a lot. Because I don't know about you guys, you know, go back to the 15 years of rejection. Like, there's a lot of failure before, and failure is a heavy term, but maybe just like reimagining that has to happen till you get to the place you want to be. And that happens to Bess. But she is take charge. And I think learning for kids to learn that when there is something that is happening that they feel that matters to them, to speak out, to do something. And it's okay if you don't know what that is. You talk to a grown-up, you talk to the people in your life, and you work together to have a plan. And if that plan fails the first time, if it doesn't mean it wasn't worth it. And that's also something that she learns. Like, just because you don't succeed at changing minds doesn't mean that your efforts and your voice didn't matter. They did matter.
They did matter. Can you speak about Mr. Jasper? So Mr. Jasper is the librarian in the book who introduces Bess to this group of amazing book warriors. Where did he come from?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so all the teachers that stood up, all of the amazing educators that I have met. I mean, I've had this privilege. My first book came out in 2016. I had this unbelievable opportunity to meet amazing teachers and librarians over the years. They inspired Mr. Jasper and the Book Warrior group of librarians. I mean, I'm so honored and privileged that I have met all these teachers who have such a dedication to their students. Many here today have brought their students. Teachers that have advocated for their students, championed the right to read, have used their voice at very difficult times. I mean, that's where Mr. Jasper came from. I love Mr. Jasper. Mm-hmm. I think he's like, sees in Bess like her strength and her kindness, and sees that she is more of a warrior than she realizes. And I feel like he is very emblematic of what's happening and what's happening at this stage of things in the world.
I appreciate the way you handled his situation. And again, no spoilers, but there's a situation that happens with him that is very real and could happen. And kids do have to face that reality sometimes. Of all of the characters, besides Bess, because obviously she was fun to write, who was the most fun or exciting to write as a character?
Okay, there's a couple. Well, one, shout out to Maya, who's here, is Emmy. So Emmy is Bess's best friend, who has the signature pom-pom headband that you might notice Maya wearing. So Maya inspired Emmy. And Emmy was really fun to write because Emmy is just like a great friend to Bess. And in being a great friend, she is developing other interests too. She's spunky and loving, and she just doesn't, there are moments in the story where Bess is kind of worried because Emmy makes other friends and has other interests, but that's what happens. But there's still room in your heart and your life for your old friends too. And so that's something she learns. I also loved writing Avi. He is the little brother with the fishes, and I just have a sweet spot for him.
But even though he has the fishes, he still helps his big sister be brave.
Yep. He helps his big sister. He wants to be Superman for Halloween, and some friends had said, he's little, he's 5, had said he couldn't be Superman because he cries sometimes. And they made sure that they understood that when Superman cries sometimes, that's totally fine. So they were very fun.
What has your experience been as an author in this time writing about this topic?
So up until today, up until this morning, my experience has been great. For the most part, my books have been really well received, and I haven't had any challenges. There was something that was written on Twitter today that said some things about the book that are tagging groups that are fighting, that are challenging books, and they said some things that were hurtful.
And those people exist, and just like
And
you're
those,
helping
yeah.
to teach
So
kids.
the and knowing this book, knowing what this book tackled, I'm not surprised, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me nervous. But like Bess in the book, I share, fear is never a reason to not do something that matters to you. So.
And they're going to realize that this book is so much more than just about a book bag. And while that is a very important component, right?
Yes.
And this book wouldn't be this book without it. It is so much more about friendship and listening and being strong and standing up, even when it's really, really scary.
And pies.
And
There's a lot of pies in the book.
Yes.
There's a
And
cafe,
pies.
there are pies.
And a love interest.
And there's a crush.
Yes.
Yes, there's a crush. So there are a lot of other things in this story than a book challenge.
Right.
And I'm proud of all of them. I love Bess. So I was gonna maybe do the giveaway. All right, so we're gonna do a giveaway game. I try to write most days, but I don't have like a cherished place. I mean, I started writing, it was a long time ago. My oldest is now 32, and he was in 4th grade. So it was at that time when they were in school. I mean, I'd write in the parking lot waiting to pick them up. I'd write it, in the waiting room at the dentist's office. I love to write on the train. I love to write when I travel. So I'll kind of write whenever I have time. Whenever I have that chunk of time is when I do it. I'm not a person who I need certain word limits. I have my friend Victoria who's here. Her book, Fenway and Hattie, is amazing. You should definitely read that. You are a very structured writer with very key points that you get to. I'm not like that. I know, like when I was writing Dear Student, I knew the first few chapters, so I lightly outlined them. I knew the last few, and the middle of my outline said, something great happens here. And when I sent it to Victoria to say, what do you think? She said, that is my favorite part. So for me, the process of writing allows me to discover the story. And so I need to leave room in my writing for creativity. Like that's how it works for me, but that's just one person. Every other writer in this room will tell you their process, and it's gonna look different. Because you just have to honor what works for you, and what worked for one book doesn't always work for the next book. Like I have to kind of reinvent the wheel each time. Sometimes I know the middle. For Hidden Truths, I knew the middle, so I had to work from the middle of the story out. Same Page, I knew the end, so I had to work towards that. But I always say to students, if they're stuck, or writers, write what you know. Like I write, the beautiful thing about art and creativity is you can color outside the lines, you can write in any order. I write the scenes that I know, and I trust that the process will allow me to connect them eventually. Like they'll find their way. Thank you. Oh, you want? Well, I'm working on a couple. They're not things that I can fully talk about, but there's a chapter book for younger readers that I am working on, and I'm working on a new middle grade, but it's very new, so I'm not really sharing details, but to be continued. Dear Student also is about Autumn, who she has social anxiety, and she becomes the secret voice of the middle school advice column, and nothing could go wrong with that. But that's in PJ Library for the same reason that I write about kids who are Jewish and who are just living their normal life like everybody else. Any other questions?